Bueno, pues bienvenidos a esta rueda de prensa de Voulgaris para analizar el mercado de fichajes de invierno. Preguntad preferiblemente en castellano o en valenciano. Si alguien se siente más cómodo en inglés, que pregunte en inglés, no hay problema. Y nada, simplemente identificaros con nombre y medio de comunicación para las preguntas. Así que pico, como quieras.
Buenos días, Bob. Una primera valoración de cómo ha quedado el mercado para el Club Deportivo Castellón después de esta ventana y si contempla hacer alguna incorporación más. Si es así, ¿en qué posición, cuáles serían las posiciones prioritarias?
Welcome, obviously, hello. I think for the winter market, it's always a little bit challenging, I think, to integrate new players into the squad. When I'm talking, a little challenging during the winter market to integrate players into the squad. Also, it's a little bit difficult to maybe find the players that you want because a lot of teams won't let their players go unless they find a replacement, so you have to wait for this. We didn't necessarily want to let some of our players go until we found a replacement. So with that being said, the players that we added earlier in the market, I think we were very pleased with this. I think they were two players that fit a lot of our needs, so we're excited about that. And then the last player we added also, I think, could be an important piece. Just he will take a little bit more time, I think, to get up to speed because he was not playing football with the team for quite a few months. So, but yeah, optimistic in terms of can we add more players? We certainly cannot add more players. We only have one spot, so we can add a player. But it's just kind of a situation where we either want a player who we think we can develop for the future, who can fit our team for the future, or someone who could help us win this year. I think it's very difficult to add a player who we think will really have an impact this season. So we're probably geared more towards someone that we think we can develop, maybe help us a little bit this year, but also maybe someone that we can have be a part of our team for the future. So.
Hola, buenos días, ¿qué tal? Me gustaría preguntarle por una de las noticias, ¿no?, de las últimas semanas, la salida de Rueda, ¿no? Que era el máximo responsable deportivo del club. Un poco que nos explique los motivos o las causas de la salida. Y luego también preguntarle cómo es el día a día ahora en el club. Usted, que ahora es el máximo responsable de la parcela deportiva, ¿cómo es ese día a día? Un poco para que la gente lo entienda, ¿no? ¿Cómo es el trabajo de un responsable, del máximo responsable deportivo del club?
Can you just, I don't understand the maximum authority question.
Esa máxima figura, si le puedes aclarar, por favor. ¿A quién te refieres?
No, le pregunto que usted ha dicho que usted es el máximo responsable deportivo del club, ¿no?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything has changed for the last, since I've been here for the most part. I've always had the same role. I think at the start, Dave was here kind of to help us set up the sport structure. So I think maybe our lack of like explaining every little detail about the club and whose responsibility is what maybe worked against us a little bit in that regard. But also I feel like it's not really something that we should be spending a lot of time on to begin with. But yeah, Dave helped set up the foundation for the club in terms of hiring the support staff. So doctors, physios, masseuses, analysts, etc. He helped get the club started in terms of getting the training facility at Oropesa, making sure we had everything we needed there. That's was kind of his responsibility, was the sporting department. I think people somehow ran with that thinking he was the sports director. I think I was pretty clear from the start that we were not going to have a sporting director since I took over the club. I just thought that I was going to play that role. So yeah, Dave is no longer with the club, but obviously we appreciate everything he's done. From my perspective, we're always looking to try to improve the club in terms of getting new players. We were trying to get new coaches. In terms of the business and sporting side of the club, we're always trying to attract new talent in that regard as well. So that it doesn't just apply to players, it applies to everyone. So yeah, in terms of what my day-to-day role is, it's the same as it was last year, I think. Trying to find players, trying to find people that can help the club, whether it's analysts, coaches, business side a little bit more, I think, recently, just because I need to pay a little bit more attention to that. But yeah, that's pretty much my role.
Xavi?
Hola, Bob. Xavier Rueda from APUN, Radio Televisión Valenciana. Yo quería preguntarte, porque está siendo una campaña muy exitosa, con mucha euforia entre los aficionados, ¿cómo de optimista eres tú con ese ascenso que es el claro objetivo del club? Y si en caso de no conseguirse, representaría, ¿cómo lo encajarías tú y cómo afectaría al proyecto? Gracias.
Yeah, I think I'm very appreciative, obviously, of the support. I think that was also true last year as well. We had great support, especially towards the second half of the season. This year has been great in terms of, I think we've had, by any measurable account, a fantastic season so far. But we still have 16 games left, yeah. So we're just kind of not really thinking about what happens if we get promoted, what happens if we don't get promoted. We're just kind of planning ahead. And will I be disappointed if we don't get promoted? Of course. Will it devastate me? Of course not. I think it's just, we just have to kind of do the best job we can. We need to make sure we have the best resources available for the club to make sure that the players can perform at a high level, the coaches can perform at a high level, and then hope we get a little bit lucky and get promoted. So that's kind of my attitude there. But I can't really control whether we get promoted or not, so it doesn't really seem like it's something I'm obsessing over too much.
Hola Bob, buenas tardes, Xavi Isidro para Radio Castellón Cadena Ser. Has valorado anteriormente el mercado, has hablado de las nuevas incorporaciones. He tenido la sensación de que estás especialmente satisfecho con el fichaje de Douglas Aurelio. No sé si esperas muchísimo, has dicho que hay que darle tiempo, porque es un jugador que nos puede dar mucho, sobre todo con el paso del tiempo, pero ¿tienes esa satisfacción personal de que puede ser una primera pieza importante en un futuro proyecto del Castellón, el fichaje de Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the intention when you sign a player, is you hope that he can become a major contributor to the club. So I think for us, we had a very, very high opinion of him. So we wanted to sign him for some time, dating all the way back to the summer. So, you know, but at the end of the day, the player has to integrate, has to get up to speed with the system, has to perform at a level that is acceptable to him, the player. He has to make sure that he's at his best in terms to be able to perform. But yeah, we're obviously very happy, but at the end of the day, he's only had 35 minutes of playing time, so it's really hard to make any judgment either way as to how, you know, how things are going. I think they're going good personally, but you know, the most important thing is just to make sure that the player is comfortable in a new environment, make sure he understands the system, make sure that he acclimates to different league, our players, or his teammates, etc. So, but so far so good. Yeah, very, very optimistic, very happy, very excited about the prospect for sure.
Hola, Bob, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes, Víctor Serrano de Signo Deportivo. Yo te quiero preguntar en relación al último fichaje, al Lars, un poco cómo se gesta esa llegada y qué le puede aportar al equipo arriba, ¿no? Porque estamos viendo el temporada que está haciendo de Miguel de cara a puerta. ¿Qué le puede aportar algo diferente al equipo? Gracias.
Yeah, I think Lars is an interesting addition for us because he provides a number of things. He provides some support for Demi in terms of if Demi's not able to play, Lars can play. He can give us a different type of presence in the box because of his size. You know, he's not only an aerial in the air reference striker, but he's also quite good with his feet. He's good in link-up play. So, I mean, for us, we're hoping he can help us. We'll see what exactly his role will be once he gets fully fit. But yeah, I think the nice thing about Lars is he understands his role coming here. He understands he's here to support the team. He's not coming here to be like the striker. He's here we already have a striker. So he's just kind of here to fill in when he can. And when he gets this opportunity, we'll be able to evaluate more how effective he is. But for me, I think it's seeing him in training so far. He's clearly not 100%, but he's showing some things that are exciting in some ways as well.
Buenos días, Bob. José Luis Gual, de Castellón Plaza. Quería preguntarle, en términos de funcionamiento en el mercado de fichajes, a la hora de incorporar futbolistas, si nos puede dar algún detalle, ¿no? Hay clubes, como sabe, que bueno, firman, digamos, la dirección deportiva de sus entrenadores en base a la plantilla que tienen, sacan el mayor rendimiento posible. En el caso de la hora en el Castellón, nuestro entrenador, Dick, ¿tiene algún papel en la toma de decisión final a la hora de que llegue algún jugador? Gracias.
Yeah, I think obviously the coach is going to decide who plays. So it doesn't make sense to sign players that you don't think the coach values or wants to play. So yeah, he's a big part of it. He's a big part of the equation. I think also Dick has the ability to attract players that other coaches cannot. So you know, we're constantly getting inundated with, hey, take a look at this guy, take a look at that guy. I'm sure he is as well. So it's a nice dialogue. We all kind of work together. We have an approach where we have my department in terms of the sporting department, but also the analytics. You guys call it big data. Yeah, has an opinion of the players. We take that into account. Then we liaison with the coaches to see what they think of the players. They contribute their opinion, and then from that we make a decision. But in terms of like who has final say, it's collaborative. But of course, I have final say. It's my club, so I'm the main caretaker of the club and the one who's going to be here, forever until. So it's. But yeah, I'm not making any decisions without consulting Dick because I respect his opinion, and B, I respect that he's the one in charge of who plays. So I want to make sure that our vision for how the player fits into the system aligns with his vision for how the player might fit into the system, if that makes sense.
Hola, Víctor de Manís para Televisión de Castellón. Le quería preguntar sobre si los 3 fichajes que se han hecho en este mercado han sido analizados por el Big Data y qué parámetros os han hecho decididos por ellos para ficharlos. Gracias. Parámetros.
¿Parámetros de Big Data?
Sí, de los datos.
De los datos.
How do you define big data, I guess, my question? Because I still don't know what this means, yeah? I don't know what big data
A la
means.
hora de analizar los datos, ¿en qué destacan estos jugadores?
Their strengths.
Ah.
Have you done an analysis on that?
Yeah.
On their
Yeah,
statistics?
sure. Just to be clear, like we'll never sign a coach, a player, anyone without doing an analysis with a data approach. That just won't happen at this club as long as I'm the custodian, because that's what we believe in. So yeah, of course we did a data analysis. There's different types of analysis you can do, obviously depending on the age of the player, how much data you have available. So your confidence level in your models will be higher the more data you have. It'll be a little bit less higher on younger players. So someone like Nikita is a little bit of a younger player. So we don't have as much data and confidence in him in terms of data confidence, but then you have raw data that shows he's quite fast, top speed. He's now the fastest player, top speed, PSV 5 on our team. So that's a bit of data. But yeah, just to people can always ask the same question because I'm sure people like asking this question, but the answer will always be the same as long as I'm here. Yes, we use data. We believe in data. It's, the largest, it's the first thing we look at every time we're looking at a player is data. So I will never sign a player that a coach isn't exactly 100% sure on, where the data isn't also making sense. Like we'll take some chances where we don't really have a strong opinion data-wise if the coach has a strong opinion. But aside from that, the data is kind of like the bedrock or foundation for most of our decisions. And we're also always improving how we analyze the players, and the models are improving, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's the approach here. So just to reiterate.
Hola, Bob, de que voy a ser el equipo mediterráneo. Con la gran temporada que está haciendo el equipo, ¿ha recibido ofertas por jugadores importantes en este mercado y ha tenido que rechazarlas?
There's not a lot of clubs, I think, in this league that are spending money to buy players. I think there's some in the other group. Maybe Murcia has paid a small amount for some players in the winter market. So to answer your question, no, we didn't really get any offers for any of our players in terms of to sell. Also, we were proactive ahead of time to extend some of the players that we were worried about maybe having a shorter contract that would allow them to leave earlier. So no, in the third division, it's pretty hard to have like teams wanting to like buy your players from you. Yeah. So and also when we sign players to contracts, depending on how they align with the vision of the club, we usually put in release clauses that are high enough to where, you know, if the team doesn't offer that amount, we probably, if we want to keep the player, we probably won't be open to negotiate with some of our key players. But it's not something that really is happening a lot in the third division, I don't think.
Buenos días, soy Luchoa del periódico El Mundo. Yo quería preguntar un poco en líneas generales, ahora que ya lleva año y medio aquí en el club en Castellón, un poco qué balance hace de ese año y medio que lleva y si, bueno, si cree que se han cumplido las expectativas que llevaba para este periodo de tiempo aproximadamente.
Do you mean my opinion of the team or the city or what exactly?
No, in general, about the club.
In general, sorry, so expectations here, in general.
I didn't really know what to expect, to be perfectly honest. I think by any measure, I've been pleased with what's happened in terms of how we progressed last year. I think if I'm being perfectly honest, the first year when we immediately decided to close the deal on the club, we were just kind of hoping to maintain a nice level in the group, learn a little bit more, improve our processes, and then for this year really be having a direct goal for promotion. Obviously, we wanted to get promoted last year as well, but going into the season, you know, you weren't able to pick your coach. We acquired the team already. Some players had already been signed before we acquired the team by the previous sporting director. But then once the papers were signed to acquire the team, we were able to like kind of control which players we added. And so then our expectations, I think, were raised a little bit based on the players that we were able to add. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think if you look back to maybe the press conference I did last year or the start of the season, in terms of what our expectations were going in and where we're at now, I think it would be hard to say that we haven't. This is a very optimistic scenario that's happened. Obviously, it's not super exciting to have this record and have another team that's only lost one game all year tied with us. So that's definitely, I didn't expect that. But yeah, so far so good. You know, just keeping at it, I suppose, and hoping for the best.
Voy a preguntar en inglés sobre la importancia de las posiciones a la hora de fichar. I'm asking in English. Yeah, so about the importance of positions when it comes to recruitment. Digger said that he doesn't necessarily see the real position of players as the one that's listed. I think with Iago, it's a good example because last year it was a centre back, this year he's kind of a centre mid. And Dig also said last year that Daijiro was more right winger or played right wing before. With that in mind, how important are
Hey, go lay down.
How important are the listed positions in the recruitment process as opposed to the stats for specific attributes? And do you think an edge could be perhaps if you don't look at the positions that are listed and just focus on the attributes to see what the best fit for what you need?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the position just to get an idea, but more you look at the prototype of the player and how he produces. And yeah, so you look at the position, but it's just kind of a reference. And then you look at what we call we try to typify the player, what his strengths and weaknesses are, where he can play. I think we even had a discussion when we signed Daijiro, and you were under the impression he was going to be a right wing back, and I was like, no, we see him as a center back. So, but yeah, I think obviously you want to communicate that with the player ahead of time to make sure they're open to playing that position. But as long as every player we have is very very open to try different things and they all just want to help the team, which is really, really nice. So, you're obviously not going to take a player who's just, like Lars is a striker. Yeah, he's not going to play a different position. But in terms of midfield, I think the way we play and our style of play, we need very, very quick center backs. And then a lot of the changes we made were not necessarily because we wanted to change the player. It was because we had players that were injured in that position. So what are we supposed to do? We don't have, Calendar is injured. We had a player on a red card, etc., or too many yellows. So, Iago steps up, Oscar steps up. It wasn't Borja even played a game there. It wasn't like we thought, oh yeah, Borja is a traditional midfielder. It was just, what the fuck are we supposed to do? We have some injuries here. Let's make the best decision. So.
Sí.
Hola. Gracias.
Buenos días, Bob. Mi nombre es Víctor, de la web Castellón Base, especializada en fútbol base, fútbol formativo. ¿Te preocupa un posible descenso del Castellón B si descendiera a la categoría de regional preferente? ¿Te gustaría que el juvenil A subiera a la máxima categoría del fútbol nacional español? En cuanto a la organización de la cantera, son 700 jugadores que visten la camiseta del Club Deportivo Castellón, en la estructura Club Deportivo Castellón, en la estructura Castalia Promesas, que en estos momentos están entrenando en instalaciones municipales en pésimo estado, algunas de ellas. ¿Quieres de verdad, te gustaría de verdad, más allá de la ampliación de Castalia, contar con una ciudad deportiva propia?
Yeah, the sporting facilities are definitely a priority for us right now. I think in terms of trying to come to some agreement with some different options for us in terms of being able to build something that will accommodate not only the A team, the B team, but also some academy stuff. In terms of the B team, am I worried? Not worried. I think obviously we hope they don't get relegated. We expect they won't. I think ideally what you want is you want your B team to always be one level below your A team if you're going to have an ideal situation. So if we're in third division, you want your B team to be in fourth division. If we're in second, you want them to be in third division. So that's something we're focused on. I think, to be fair, the highest priority of the club for the last year and a half has always been the A team, because investing a lot of resources into the foundation when we're in third division, and we don't even have facilities for the A team. When we bought the club, we didn't have training facilities for the A team. It's hard to say, okay, now let's make sure that the foundation has great facilities too. But yeah, they're not great conditions. It's something we certainly want to improve, and it's something that I hope that we can come to an agreement within the city, because at the end of the day, you know, we need land to do this. There's not a availability of land to fit our needs yet, but there's some options that we hope we can come to an agreement on. But yeah, right now we're just, you know, I've said this a few different times, but our main priority is to get the club promoted, and then trickling down from that, we'll start directing more and more resources to the B team, the foundation, etc.
De lo que te estaba preguntando el compañero, ¿cómo están las relaciones, las negociaciones con el ayuntamiento, precisamente por el convenio y por la posible, tal vez, reforma de Castalia?
Yeah, that's an ongoing process. I think our legal department, headed by Alberto, is negotiating that. And how's it going on? It's like one of those things where you can't really have a comment on it until it's closed, because you don't know how it could go. Yeah, but from our perspective, or from my perspective, our approach is that we need certain things to be done to the stadium to be La Liga 2 compliant. That's very important. It's my understanding that these things need to be approved, and the construction changes have to be done right away. So that's part of it. My other understanding of that is the council might not have the ability to allocate funds in a quick manner because of their process of getting approval for such things. So that's something that we'll have to figure out a solution for. At the end of the day, I would love to refurbish the stadium, spend money to improve the stadium, improve the facilities, add seats, add luxury stuff. I would do all of those things if it was my stadium and we own the stadium, but we don't. And so I think we're balancing, okay, if you're expecting me to pay for all these things for a stadium that I don't own, what person would do this? It doesn't make sense. So I think there has to be maybe a process where that is understood. The other side of it is, if the city doesn't have the resources to do what's needed for the stadium, maybe the city needs to also look at possibly the idea of coming to a good agreement with us, either at worst for a very, very long lease, so that we can be comfortable spending money knowing we have the right to use the stadium. Like, imagine you rent a house, you spend $250,000 improving it, and then your landlord says, okay, thank you very much, you're out. I'm gonna now charge more rent to the next person. That doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do this. So yeah, either the lease agreement has to be very favorable for us if we're going to contribute capital, or they're open to maybe allowing us to acquire the stadium at a price that's reasonable. And I think that would be something that we would be open to, provided the price was right, and then we could really be in control of things and not have to worry about bureaucracy and and resources that the city just may not have. You know, it's hard to expect the city to devote a lot of money and resources to a football club when maybe there's other things that are more important to the community in terms of like just beneficial community services. So we're very sensitive to that. You know, I don't want the city to go bankrupt because they want to support our football stadium. But on the other hand, if they're not able to support the football stadium, and we have a big, big vision for this club, not just in La Liga 2, but also in La Liga. So we need a top flight stadium to do this if we really, really want to compete with other teams in our region. And I'm willing to devote whatever resources necessary to do that. But, I would preferably have that be a stadium that I control, not someone else controls. Does that make sense?
Sí, me ha llamado la atención antes, Bob, que dijeras que no había que obsesionarse con el ascenso, pero hay mucha ilusión entre los aficionados. ¿No subir este año sería un tropezón demasiado grande para tu proyecto o tendría continuidad desde esa ambición?
Yeah, no, if we don't get promoted, it'll be disappointing. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to be like waking up the next morning with like a big smile on my face, but yeah, it's not going to change anything really. I mean, we're 2 years into this project. We'll be 2 years in at the start of next season. So will it be a hindrance? No, not at all. I mean, I think going into the season, we hoped we would get promoted, but we plan for the future. I think either way, we're always getting better. So worst case scenario, we don't get promoted. We'll get promoted next year maybe, but yeah, it's not really something that I live, breathe, or die. Now as for the fans, fans I've talked to have told me that they feel very comfortable and they know that the club is stable, and while they would love to get promoted, they understand that we're here for the long term and we have a long-term project and a long-term commitment, and so they feel the club is safe and they're happy going to games. And they will continue supporting the club even if promotion is not achieved this year. But I think, being realistic, we have a really, really great shot at being promoted this year, either directly or through the playoffs. So for me, super optimistic. But yeah, I'm not gonna jump off the highest whatever point in Castellón is and to fall to my death if we don't get promoted. It's not gonna be a big deal for me. So.
You made a comment on the last podcast you did about how your models are.
Yeah, it's not really a valid comparison because we're looking at the third and second division of Spain is not like a big league in terms of like for the betting market, let's say, right? So the odds aren't super sophisticated. So while we outperform them, it's not that big a deal because I think the sportsbooks, to be fair, don't really have a clue what they're doing in the third and second division. Whereas in the NBA, the lines are very good. So if you can beat the NBA lines, you have a super. But I think outside of that was kind of like a comment that it's accurate, but it wasn't like something that we're really. The most important thing is we're making predictions in terms of like what our expected goals are versus each game, how we expect to perform versus each game, and I think in terms of how we projected the season going and how we projected the individual players' performance going, I think has been quite good. I think, going into the season, we had a pretty good feeling that we would score a lot of goals. We're scoring a lot of goals. We had a good feeling that our striker would perform very, very well. He's performing very well. Even the players we tried to sign this summer that we were not able to sign are performing really, really well goal scoring wise. So that was good. So I feel like while we're not as far along in the basketball as I was compared to basketball, from a predictive standpoint, we're not really devoting resources to beating the betting odds at all. It's just kind of like a happy accident that they also. So we're more trying to predict performance of players and how they'll fit into our system. And from that perspective, I feel like we're really far along and we're getting better and better as days go by. So yeah, it's a continuing process that we're pretty pleased with.
Yo quería preguntarte al respecto del mercado también, en cuanto a dos salidas que hubo a priori dos hombres clave como eran Cristian y Groning, si salen porque no terminaban de encajar para Vic o porque les llegaron ofertas y decidieron salir. Gracias.
There was no real offers. I mean, it's not like anyone bought either player from us. I think it's just have an idea of how a player will fit into a system. And then you have half a year's worth of performance. It's not just the games, it's also how the players are performing in training. So it's like Sebastian performed quite well in the minutes that he played in games, to be fair, in terms of just scoring goals. But for us, being a striker on this team is very difficult because you have, who we believe to be the best striker in the entire group, in De Miguel. So you're trying to get minutes from him. And so from him, it was just he's a player who wanted to play more. We couldn't guarantee that we would be able to give him more playing time, so we wanted him to be, and he's also was a good professional and a good individual, so we wanted to give him the opportunity to go elsewhere. And then around the same time, we had the opportunity to sign Lars, so we thought, hey, this is someone who we feel fits our system a little bit better. He won't have necessarily the expectations to play a lot of minutes, so that was beneficial. So we let that happen. In terms of Christian, he's another player who has very, very good qualities. I think his preferred style of play, is more traditionally Spanish style of football, in terms of holding the ball a little bit longer, making longer passes, trying to really orchestrate offensively. He's obviously very good in set pieces and that sort of thing. But our system, when you're playing in the midfield, I think requires a lot of other things that maybe we thought that we had better options in terms of playing. He also had some bad luck. He got sick. He got injured early. Then he got a really bad flu where he was out for 3 weeks, lost a lot of weight. But he was another player I think who really thought, he wanted to be like have a primary role on the team. We also were looking ahead to next year. He had a contract guaranteed in La Liga 2. So we also thought, hey, if we're in La Liga 2, can we really justify having this contract with a player that isn't even really a main contributor in the third division? What's it going to be like? Are we going to have better options there? So we were open to hearing discussions, and as soon as his agent came to us and said, hey, we're interested in maybe going someplace else, we were okay with it. So it worked out quite good for all parties. I think he's happy. He gets to play the style of play he wants to play.
Sorry, Bob. Sorry, could you repeat the name of that player? I just didn't hear you. The one you're talking about now.
Yeah, Christian Rodriguez. It was. I think it's I think everyone feels comfortable. We feel comfortable losing him. Obviously, it'd be nice to have him, but I'm sure he's quite happy being able to. He came in and started the first game. He was there for Sueta. We get to see him again this weekend, so that'll be fun. No bad feelings either way. I would assume, and so from us, we're just trying to think really, really, really thoughtfully about not just this season, but also next season, what players ideally fit and can excel to their best abilities in the system that we want to play. So that was more the impetus behind it.